Great. So again, my name is Cynthia. This is a Quincy Arts and Culture info session, but it is a follow-up to a first meeting that we did have about 2 months ago. And that was a partnership between the Mass Culture Council, MassCreative, and Quincy for Transformative Change, which is a local group. And for tonight, the meeting is going to be from 6 to 7:30. But again, so just a little bit more context, we wanted to reconvene those who were able to attend the meeting a couple of months ago, because we understand that the holiday season is extremely busy. So we kind of wanted just to bring everyone together before the year ended. And I know that there are a lot of cool and exciting things that are happening at the local level in Quincy in terms of arts and culture. So this is also just a way for us to really connect with the small business community that is really strong in the local area. So just a few rules of engagement. Please keep yourself on mute when not speaking. Utilize the chat function during the presentation if you have any questions, and we'll be able to answer the questions during or following the presentation. And during the discussion portion, we'll have a little bit more instruction on how to participate. And if you notice that this meeting is being recorded and it's for documentation purposes. So when we want to send out notes afterwards, we want to get as many details as we can in it. And if you are uncomfortable with that, you can leave your video off or change any identifying information. So for the agenda today, we're going to go over some of the meeting purposes. We want to do a recap from the information session that we had in September, just to bring everyone up to speed, especially if this is your first meeting. Then we're going to hear from Cynthia Wu, who is the director of the Pow Arts Center at BCNC. And then we're going to have Tim Cahill, who is the president of the Quincy Chamber of Commerce, and he's going to be speaking a little bit about that and some of the upcoming things that are happening. And then we have Zach Achorn from SelfMade Designs. And then afterwards, we're going to have a small discussion, kind of focusing on the collaboration between small businesses and the arts community. And then afterwards, I have with us Kelly Cobble and Ed Fitzgerald. They are the co-chairs of the Quincy Arts Council. And I know, you know, there are some changes that have been happening in terms of the grant cycle. So they'll be able to speak a little bit about that afterwards. So before we get started, just wanted to quickly, you know, start off with a land acknowledgement. So this is a land acknowledgement that our virtual gathering is in regards to Quincy, Massachusetts, and this is, you know, in honor of the ancestral and unceded territory of the Wampanoag, Nipmuc, and Massachusetts people, and more specifically, the Neponset Band of Indigenous Massachusetts tribe. So I am going to throw it over to Nicole.
Great, thank you, Timothea. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about how Timothy and I, we connected, and some of the purposes we put together in doing this work. So first, I just want to talk about our why we're doing this work, why we're organizing together. And so what you'll see here are some of the questions that we asked ourselves. So how might we use the arts as a tool to uplift our diversity and create community among us? How can we use the arts to help rebuild a healthy and economically vibrant city? What you're missing here is a little bit of context from the last meeting, where we talked a little bit about how COVID has affected all of us, and also more specifically artists. And tonight we're talking about businesses, so that really works hand in hand. But we also talked about the movements that are happening across the country in terms of racial justice. So this is these questions are also responding to those things. So to that end, we are organizing artists, creative entrepreneurs, arts advocates, and leaders across the city to provide an opportunity to unify artists across the city, uplift BIPOC, so Black, Indigenous, people of color, and youth artists, develop relationships between Quincy artists and state and city agencies, organizations, and businesses. And we're here to provide Quincy artists access to advocacy tools that result in local funding, resources, and support for Quincy artists. And then if we go to this specific meeting, so that's kind of our general overall meeting and our overall purposes. And then for this particular meeting, our purposes here tonight are to share this space together, share our visions and dreams for arts and culture in the city of Quincy, and identify ideas and opportunities for collaboration between local artists and businesses. So you're hearing me talk a lot about artists and business because that was one of the main threads that came up during the info session. So after looking at our recording and also our notes from the session, these are some of the things that came up. So people are interested in talking about how we can create more diversity and representation in the arts in our city, how artists can get more access to spaces. So this space is not only for kind of studio space, but rehearsal space and performance and exhibition space, how we can collaborate with the local business community, how we can build community among artists, how we can create better communication channels. So we have an understanding about what opportunities are available, what events are happening in the city. Folks are interested in talking about mentorship between emerging and experienced artists, arts education, and then creating some transparency around any initiatives that the city has to the local artists. So those were the threads. You'll see that the 4 bolded threads are the ones that we're touching upon tonight. So with that, I think that we're going to start our first presentation. So we are so lucky to have tonight with us Cynthia Wu, who is the director of the POW Art Center at BCNC, Boston Chinatown Neighborhood Center. And she is going to share with us a project that POW has recently completed. She can speak best about it, but it's a really interesting partnership between POW and the people of Chinatown. And thank you so much, Cynthia. So I'll throw it over to you.
Anyway, hi everyone. As Nicole introduced, my name is Cynthia Wu. I'm the director of POW Art Center, which is a partnership program between BCNC, Boston Chinatown Neighborhood Center, and Bunker Hill Community College. I just wanted to give you a little context of why we exist before I jump into a project we worked on this September called Experience Chinatown in, let's see. So POW Art Center itself opened in 2017, and it was opened in response to the recognition that API, or Asian Pacific Islander community, is rapidly growing, but remains underserved by local arts and cultural institutions. At the same time, the pressures in Chinatown due to gentrification threatens the unique characteristics of our neighborhood, as well as its importance as a gathering place for API community members. And lastly, we're really founded on the idea that audience and artists, through arts and creative and cultural offerings, will have better health outcomes and also community outcomes. And I'll also say that it's a very interesting project. It's a co-creation, as I mentioned, between BCNC and Bunker Hill Community College. And it also really talks about the investment about both organizations, which aren't known as like arts organizations, and how vital arts and culture and creativity are to individual health and well-being, you know, and leveraging the arts through things like education and even childcare and all those kind of services that you think are essential. So it's really making a stake or a claim, or stating that arts and culture are just as vital to well-being as all the other essential services that we often think about in our communities. And you can see, just so a little visual of Hudson Street, where we're located, a historic photo from the neighborhood where these houses were, many of these houses and communities were destroyed. As I mentioned, we opened in 2017, and our mission is to celebrate and strengthen the API community of Chinatown and Greater Boston through access to culturally relevant art, education, and creative programming. And we do that through our 4 core programs: placemaking, artist services, education, and presenting. And here you can see a photo of what it looks like inside our space when we're more accessible to the public. So, beauties of Zoom. I have a dog running down the stairs next to me.
No worries. No worries. 1 second. 1 second. I got it. I'll just go back for you. No worries. Great.
So one of our signature events that we have kind of been working on, or we've featured every year since we opened, is this program called Experience Chinatown. And the tagline that you see for Experience Chinatown is discover a new take on Asian American culture. And when we opened in 2017, one of the things that we really thought about was there's a lot of cultural activity in Chinatown. What could we do to really uplift all the work that maybe is less seen or less heard about, and really amplify contemporary emerging artists? So Experience Chinatown is our yearly festival. It's usually a day long. There's a street fair. There's performances at the Chinatown Gate. The POW Art Center itself becomes a site for a lot of activity and interactive workshops and performances. But we recognize that, of course, in 2020, this kind of interaction wouldn't be possible. And we really started thinking about like what could really serve our community as well as fulfill our mission. So one of the things, there was an assessment done in the spring for businesses, particularly restaurants in this case, in Chinatown. And one of the things that we heard out of the study that was basically conducted, I think, by Chinatown Main Streets and the Asian Community Development Corporation was, of course, that Chinatown restaurants had a huge loss of customer base, international students and downtown workers as early as January 2020. The lease burden of paying for lease, property tax, and building insurance. A lot of employees were hesitant to return because at the time when this study was, people were receiving unemployment benefits, and it was safer, and often they could receive more money through these benefits. Another concern was that the streets in Chinatown were too narrow for curbside and outdoor dining. And then there was high surcharge for third-party deliveries. So this is just to give you a context of what made us start thinking, how could we use a program that we already do in Chinatown every year to support local businesses? And we reformatted our Experience Chinatown event in a way that we could still give opportunities for artists to make work and perform. Something we also were thinking about is the artists in our community. There was a lot of lost opportunities for performance and making artwork. So how could we do that as well as support our local businesses? So what we came up with was a new socially distanced format of doing what was typically a one-day event, and it became a month-long event. And it was throughout the whole month of September, and it was a series of art installations in local businesses, particularly restaurants. You can see here an example, as well as a series of outdoor performances near the Chinatown Gate. As well, it also had a community source mural where people submitted their love letters to Boston Chinatown. And you can see them pasted in the back, and it's also visible online. And then another sample of another one of the murals we did. We also did a walk and a run as part of this series of events, where after we did all the installations, we made a map and encouraged people to do their walk run in Chinatown. And I will say, all in all, we had 9 sites and businesses participate. Nearly 20 artists were represented through all our activities. We had 5 musical events, 2 other types of events, including this a workshop for love letters, as well as this walk run. And then we estimate about 1,500 people experienced all these activities that we had over the month. And I would say even those outdoor performances, they were at lunchtime. We did something we call Takeout Thursdays. We tried to encourage people to grab their favorite takeout from a Chinatown restaurant, come to the gate, sit outside while the weather was still nice, and enjoy music. And we had about 100 people for each of those performances. One things I want to talk about is things that were really key to our success. I think I mentioned early on that we were thinking about things that we were already doing. You know, Experience Chinatown already existed. So we thought about our neighborhood concerns. What are other people doing in our community? So you have an example here on the right. We knew that the Greenaway Conservancy was working with artist Yuan Wu to do this Lantern Stories exhibition that was in the same park that we did a lot of the performances. So we partnered to do an event together that celebrated Lantern Stories, but also provided augmented performances, but with a musician at this event. So you can see everyone is, we had a good turnout, but it was outdoors, and it was a really amazing event. People really needed that moment to come together. We also had other partners like Chinatown Community Land Trust, who was interested in doing this projection project. So when they saw the Experience Chinatown opportunity, we banded together. So instead of working independently and doing a lot of independent or insular events, we tried to work together and tried to leverage our marketing power and getting the word out so we could have more people participate or create more visibility. I'd also say that this campaign was, this event was part of a larger Chinatown campaign, the We Love Boston Chinatown campaign. And you can see there's a resilience campaign led by a collective of nonprofits and businesses in the area to reactivate Chinatown. And you can see there's a whole, as I mentioned, there's a whole list of organizations that participated, from Chinatown Main Streets, Chinatown Business Association, BCNC, POW Arts, Any Arts, Emerson, Tufts Medical was a big supporter, Councilor Flynn in Boston, et cetera. And it really encompassed a big kind of overarching view of what we could do to support businesses. And that included signage campaign, like we made these signs that were printed by Tufts Medical that could be distributed. We did our part with Experience Chinatown and doing music on Thursdays for Takeout Thursdays, public art performances. There was a cleanup of the neighborhood, and there is going to be a social media campaign and website gearing up as it gets colder. Lastly, just some considerations I want to bring up that we had to work through during this process. For us, language capacity, finding the right staff members who could talk with business owners in their most comfortable languages, developing sometimes or helping artists develop relationships or a kind of working relationship with the businesses that they might not have met before. And really also in terms of the events, always balancing the publicity or getting the word out and being socially distanced, right? That was a huge concern for us during this time. And I think another consideration we really had to make, and whenever you do a partnership, what's the proper language? How do you talk about all the organizations and institutions and businesses involved so that everyone feels really heard and represented in the language that you use? So I think we're doing questions later, but this is my information.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Cynthia. If you do have questions, you can feel free to drop them in the chat, but we will leave some space during our discussion time. I just want to say I'm a big fan of BCNC. I've been in the POW Art Center, and I reached out to Ben and Cynthia because I've been following this project of Experience Chinatown, and I was thinking this would be really amazing to hear more about it. So just appreciate your time. I do want to recognize also Ben Hires is here, the executive director. He's waving. Cynthia, the BCNC has a satellite here. I don't know if everybody knows this or we touched upon it, but has a satellite program in Quincy. We are friends across it's not across the river, friends down the red line, I guess. Great. Well, thank you again. So now we are going to move it over to Tim Cahill, who is the president of the Quincy Chamber of Commerce. He's going to share with us two proposals that are coming up.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Nicole and Timothea. I'm embarrassed by Cynthia because she was so organized and I am not. So there's no presentation. You'll just have to watch my mouth move for the next 10 minutes. We have two very exciting projects that we're working on that I think tie into what you folks are all trying to do. I'll give you a brief summation of what they are, when they're going to happen, and how they tie in. And we work with BCNC. Ben is on our board. I saw Ben this morning, and now we see Ben tonight. Happy birthday, Ben. Thank you for taking time out of your birthday to be with us. I also work with Ed Fitzgerald and Kelly Cobble on one of the projects. Ed's the leader of the Quincy Historical Society. Kelly not only runs the Quincy Art Association, but also works at the Adams National Park Service. So our first event is the second year we've done it. It's called the Quincy Square Winter Market. Will take place this year outdoors at the new Kilroy Square, which is a new civic square in Quincy, right behind Hancock Street and adjacent to a new parking garage that was just opened, I think at the beginning of the pandemic or right before it. What the market is pretty self-explanatory. We have a bunch of vendors that will come in over a 3-weekend period to sell their wares. Local artisans, artists, crafters, jewelry makers, some bakers as well. As of now, we have over 50 vendors who are signed up. The event starts, let me go back a little bit. The event starts on November 27th, which is Black Friday, day after Thanksgiving, and runs Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for 3 weekends, going consecutively, ends on December 13th. We have a rotating list of vendors who will be in under 2 tents that we have at the square, adjacent to the Fours restaurant. So they'll be serving food and drinks, and people will be able to go in and out of the 2 tents to purchase and connect with the vendors that are there. This is the second year that we've done this. Last year we did it inside at an old toy store on the opposite side of Hancock Street. It was very, very successful. I think this year the location is far superior, and unless the weather doesn't work with us, it should be very well. And I think obviously appropriate for what we're dealing with social distancing. We need to be outside, but it's a great space. We will also be working with a local artist who's going to paint the windows of an atrium that leads into the square from Hancock Street as well. So it's our way of trying to help these small micro businesses, some of who are part of the chamber, some who are not part of the chamber, get some opportunity to sell their wares, especially during the holiday season, because for the most part, I don't think anyone has been able to access any outdoor or indoor events like this this year. Even SOAR has been closed, I think, for most of the year. So we think it's a great opportunity. It's also a good way to bring people into the square and expose them to this new public space that the city built. It's a space that we hope to be able to use as a Chamber of Commerce, not just during the holidays, but also seasonal, to run multiple festivals in the fall, in the spring, and then hopefully in the summer as well. We are looking at some entertainment. We have a group of carolers coming on one Saturday afternoon. We've talked to a couple of small musicians, meaning, not bands, but musicians who will do some folk music. The challenge for us, and it's too bad in a way, but I'm thankful that we can do this, is that we have to really be sensitive to the number of people we bring. Last year, we did everything we could to bring people, and we brought thousands over the 3 or 4 weekends that we did this. This time we have to be a little more sensitive. So we haven't downscaled, but we're just careful not to overwhelm. We had a bunch of bands. We actually worked with the South Shore Conservatory last year in Hingham, and they brought in all of their youth bands. We had probably 8 to 10 youth bands that were part of our winter market last year. We also had a beer garden. Local brewer was part of the chamber, was set up a beer garden inside beer hall inside the place. We're not going to do that this year simply because, again, of the pandemic, and you have to eat while you drink. So, but the Fours will be there, so people, both visitors as well as vendors, will be able to eat. And what we're also trying to use this is as a draw to the local restaurant scene in Quincy Center, which is very, very strong. It's been very impacted. And we would like to bring people to the square to shop and then to eat, either inside or as takeout. We've got half a dozen or more. I think there's probably 8 to 10 local restaurants right within walking distance, which we think last year was a big draw. I think this year will be an equal draw as far as bringing people in, especially as the weather gets cold. So that's the first thing. This is, again, the second year we've done it. We're getting better at this, even though it's a different, more challenging environment. We, as of now, still have word from the city that we're going to be able to do this. It is contingent on our counts staying as low as they are right now and us feeling safe to go forward. But we believe we can handle crowds and we can handle things in a safe and healthy way. Give people something, but also, again, spread them out. It's a very, very large square, plenty of benches and seats around, plenty of opportunities to sort of mix around and see people without being on top of people. And that, again, is something we're going to build on with the arts community. If we could this year, we would have opened up the atrium and invited the Quincy Art Association in and set up some type of review for them to market their wares and sell them. But again, we're not able to do that this year, but it is something that we'll do and work with Kelly and her group to open up the site both from the front and from the back so that people can experience what the local vendors have, what the local artists do, and create a really happy, engaging environment for these businesses. And at the same time, draw people to Quincy Center, especially those people who have not been here in a while. It's changed dramatically, I think almost all for the better. It is close to public transportation, so it's the Quincy Center T station if you want to come in from outside. So we're inviting everybody from within and from outside of Quincy to come. And again, it's spread out over nine different days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for 3 weekends. So, and there will be different vendors each weekend. So people can come, they can come back, or they don't have to worry about getting there on the first day and everything being sold out. So that's the first thing we're doing. Number two, this is something we've been working on with some of the folks in this room. It's called the President's Trail. We'd hope to unveil it, excuse me, in April of 2020. Obviously that didn't work. Then we hope to unveil it in November of 2020, and that didn't work. So now we're pushing it out to the spring of 2021 for an official unveiling. But what this is it's an urban walking trail that connects every major historic site related to John Quincy Adams, two presidents, John Hancock, who was the president of the Continental Congress and the first signer of the Declaration of Independence, and the Quincy family, who are all instrumental in creating the country that we live in today. From here in Quincy, which, as Ed would tell you, used to be the town of Braintree. So when you look back on history, where we sit today and where everything will be was part of Braintree, but is now part of Quincy. It's a 6.2 mile walking trail from beginning to end. It's a loop from one end of, not from one end of Quincy, but from one end of sort of the Adams family, which is the Adams National Historic Site on Adams Street, up to the other end, the southern end of Quincy, which is where the birthplaces are in the Abigail Adams Cairn. I think there's 12 sites all told. What we're going to do is put markings on the ground, sort of like the Freedom Trail. So we'll have stenciled in on the ground. So we'll have arrows pointing to the President's Trail, signs on the businesses that mark the trail. And then the city is donating, paying for, and installing historic signs that will not only tell you where you are when you're at a site, but give you a little bit of an insight of what the site, why the site is significant. We have the only place in the country where two presidents and their wives are buried, and the only place in the country where two presidents were born. John Hancock was born in Quincy, and the Quincy Historical Society building is on the site of that birthplace, the birth of John Hancock. We also have the house, the Quincy House, where Dorothy Quincy, John Hancock's wife, lived and grew up. So it's a tremendous amount of connections, and I would have to spend a long time to go through them all. But we're very excited about it for a couple of reasons. We get to celebrate Quincy's history. Probably more important to really focus on that history now than ever because of the divisiveness that sort of has overtaken this country. It wasn't always sweet and easy. It's always been challenging and difficult. And when you look at the history of this, the birth of this country, you can see that. Protests and, massacre, a host of things that happened here in the Boston area, Quincy, and then was born a country. So it's very significant. And what we're going to try to do as a chamber is tie in all the businesses that are on the trail, get people out of their houses, out of their cars, out of buses, out of trains, and get them out walking, and use this to create sort of a more lively streetscape along the trail. And the trail pretty much encompasses the entire downtown area of Quincy. So we're really excited about it. We're going to have a soft opening sometime between now and Christmas. When the mayor will announce it, we have an app that's about to be launched and a map that will be included in this, signage on trash barrels throughout the route. And then next year, hopefully early next year, when all of the historic sites open for visitation, which hopefully they will be able to do next year, the signs will be up and we'll have a grand unveiling and a grand opening of that. And in the meantime, what we will do is promote the importance of the businesses and the real estate that is on this trail. It's extremely significant. I think people in Quincy and around and outside of Quincy often take it for granted. And for us, it's not only about honoring our heritage, but it's about showing people how Quincy has changed over the last 250 years. Not always for the good, but I think in the right direction. So that's what we're doing. We're really excited about it. We're working with a number of people here. BCNC is on the trail. The Quincy Historical Society is on the trail. The Chamber is on the trail as well. And we will invite a lot more people to get on the trail, both physically on the trail and in the buildings that populate the trail all around. So anyways, that's what we have to offer. It's going to be very exciting holiday season for us. And I think we're very encouraged by what we see and where we think the city's going starting in 2021, when hopefully the virus is gone, the vaccine is out, and we can get out and enjoy life a little bit more than we've been able to over the last 9 months.
Yeah, great. Thank
Tim,
you.
I just wanted to say, it's Kelly, and I just want to say, a core of this trail is obviously the Hancock Adams Park, which is so vital, I think, to having a central gathering place, where all parts of the city can come. It's kind of the core, it's kind of the center of things. And I think that there's been some really exciting things happening there. So I think that's a big part of the push too, is that the Hancock Green, the green will be vital to that whole trail. So thank you. All in the spirit of Adams.
Tim, thank you so much for sharing those two upcoming opportunities. Can I ask you a question? I'm wondering, should there be some artists that are interested in whether they're interested in being vendors at the marketplace, or if they have some type of idea about collaboration, how can they make a connection? Or is that a possibility?
I think we are full on vendors right now. You can still apply, and there is a wait list in case people don't show up or don't want to go forward with it. But they still can apply on our website, thequincychamber.com. And I believe you can still submit an application for a vendor, but I can't guarantee we can get you in this year or in this cycle. And what was the second question? I'm sorry, Nicole.
I was just asking, let's say if there's an artist who has, wants to make a connection, is that something that you'd welcome, or that
Yes.
Is there a way? And
yes, I would encourage, and again, this goes to musicians that might be interested. Again, I don't know what we can do with artists now, but we expect that this place, this Kilroy Square, will be, as Kelly said, the Common will be the historic center of Quincy, but I hope that this Kilroy Square will turn into the arts center of Quincy. So anyone that's interested can contact me, T. Cahill at thequincychamber.com or info@thequincychamber.com. It comes right to me, or check us out on the website. But yes, this is just the beginning for us. We expect that and intend to really focus on the arts and on the micro businesses, the sort of the homemade businesses that travel around the circuit. We want to be on that circuit regularly. And we also want to create opportunities. We would hope that at some point the farmers market will return to Quincy Center and maybe on this site, or we'll incorporate the current farmers market into the market that we're putting together. So it's, again, there's a lot of space there, but it's still kind of cozy, and I think it will work well. So we hope this will be the center of the arts community in Quincy, geographically as well as spiritually.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much, Tim. Well, we're going to look forward to hearing more about that, but thank you so much.
I welcome you all to stop by if you can, one of the either Friday nights or during the day on Saturday or Sunday, and just come by and see it, because we got a couple of nice tents. We're going to light them up. We got a nice lighting company to come in. So we're going to decorate the telephone poles. The city's going to light all the trees up for the holidays. So even if you don't want to buy something, it'll be a nice, cool place to be, I think, over the next 5 weeks.
We got takeout from Idle Hour last weekend, and the whole area is just lit up, and there's music, and it really has a different feel. So it's exciting. So we'll be back to patronize the businesses that are around. So thank you so much, and to check out the marketplace. So once again, thanks so much, Tim. Now we're gonna throw it over to Zach Achorn, who is the CEO, the founder of SelfMade Designs. He's going to share about his business, about the work that they do that really lives at this intersection of arts and business together. So throwing it over to you, Zach.
I had to ask somebody that's in school to figure out how to do it. Sorry about that. All right, so yeah, SelfMade Designs. How's it going, everybody? Tim, great job. Everybody, great job. Thank you for joining us tonight. So my name's Zach. I'm founder of SelfMade Designs. We're located on 532 Washington Street in Quincy, Massachusetts. And we like to claim to be the one-stop shop for your creative journey. We started back in like 2013 to 2014. At the time, we were actually renting a small studio over near Wallaston Beach. And over the past, I would say 7 years, things have definitely developed and grown organically to the point where we're at now. It's been an amazing journey. Currently in our shop, we not only do we have our own clothing and our own merchandise that we've created, and is also the home for the Support Local Artists movement, which we've been pushing for 7+ years now, whether it's through guerrilla marketing, our merchandise, or just our movement in general. It also serves as a great place for artists, entrepreneurs, small businesses, and other people that are looking to get their own merchandise or clothing made. One of the coolest things that we do is we get to bring a lot of people's ideas to lives, whether it's giving their company an image or a face or a look, or an artist bringing their art piece to life on clothing, whatever it may be. That's one of the coolest things that we get to do. As I mentioned, the Support Local Artists movement has been one of our main missions for a while now. One thing I'd like to address is, if you notice in the Support Local Artists, this has remained the same for 7 years now. We tried a bunch of different things in the beginning, but we love how it is. And what I mean by that is, you notice there's no trademark on it, there's no registration on it or anything like that. And one of the reasons that we ended up doing that was not just because of a bad business decision or anything like that. It was actually intentional, in the sense that we really believe that the Support Local Artists movement is organic, and it's a platform of its own. And because of that, we really wanted it to not only just be something that we strive for and we do here at SelfMade Designs, but something that anybody can adopt, whether it's, you know somebody in your family that's an artist, you're an artist, there's somebody locally, whatever the case may be. We really feel that there's no specification as to what who an artist is. And if you'll see this new slide that I just pulled up, one of the quotes is, "You need to be a local hero before you can become a global superhero." And that's one of the things that people hear me say around SelfMade a lot. And the reason for that is because you got to look at both ends of the spectrum. You have the viewers of art who, for the most part, if you were to ask somebody who's your favorite artist, whether it's visually, musically, whatever the case is, and this goes for everybody in this conversation or this chat, for the most part, we're going to name somebody very mainstream right off the bat. And that's just what we're used to. It's what we're exposed to the most. And that's one of the things that we always try to challenge or push with the Support Local Artists movement is like, who do you actually support locally, or who's your inspiration locally? Through this movement and like through this journey, it's been a blessing because not only have I been able to tell my story as an artist, but I've also been able to meet so many different artists that have an amazing story, but also like deserve recognition and some spotlight, whether it's musically, artistically, business-wise, specific crafts. It's very cool to see all the people locally that do their thing at such a high level. But it's one of those things where we need to bring recognition to it. So support local artists. And then the other thing too is going to the other side of the spectrum that we like to focus on is addressing the artists themselves. It's funny because when we first started the Support Local Artists movement, a lot of artists were not fans of it. I don't want to be local. I want to be bigger than that, or whatever the case is. And we really kept pushing the local aspect because we wanted people to understand, like, look, you need to have your fellow peers or people surrounding you really big you up and be there to support you, because otherwise, like when you get up there or you get wherever you're trying to go, if you have no structure and no supporting foundation, like you're really not going to go far. So we understood and we've addressed the fact that local is really the way to go. If you have the local support of everybody around you, there's no telling how far you can take it. And as you see, we were fortunate enough where some of our team were able to go to the Mass Cultural Walk, which was, I want to say like a year and a half ago, 2 years. And then in the middle, if you see, there's just a variety of different photos with people just displaying the Support Local Artists gear and showing like how much it really means. Some of them are goofy, some of them are posing, whatever the case is, but they all wear that or show that with pride. And it goes back to what we were talking about, where we wanted the movement to simply just be a movement. We didn't want to own it. We wanted the movement to be able to carry anybody and apply to anybody, not just be ours. So I'll leave you with that question, moving on to the next section. But who are your favorite local artists? And like, could you name a few? Could you name your favorite local band? Could you name your favorite local painter? Your favorite local author, dancer, whatever, chef? I mean, you name it. But that's a challenge. So if you see this symbol right here, this symbol started to develop after Support Local Artists and stuff. And it was kind of because, like, if you notice, there's multiple different mediums within this logo. And the reason for that was to really build off the fact that when it comes to artists, there's really no specific definition of who an artist is. In our reality, we could say everybody in this chat is an artist with what they do, in whatever craft, field, career it is. So we started to develop the idea of just all artists coming together. And like I said earlier, we really started in a small studio space near Wollaston Beach, but over time we were able to move over to the Point and build space within Quincy. And with that, we really started to see a bunch of different artists come to our studio to see what we were doing, but also to experience like the SelfMade experience. And with that, we really started to focus on setting a tone for artists, on understanding what it takes to be an artist. I feel like the starving artist mentality is pushed around so much, especially to our youth, and it's kind of sad in the sense that instead of that starving artist mentality, it's like, why don't we show them what it's really takes? You know, to me, I've always compared my art career to my first love, which was basketball. And like, what did I do in my basketball career that got me to the next level? What didn't I do in my basketball career that prevented me from getting to the next level? And comparing that to like my art career, and understanding that like it takes everything. It's not just one's focus on my career that's going to get me to the next level, but am I focusing on my business? Am I focusing on my creativity? Am I focusing on my personal growth? Like all the different factors that come into being an artist. And it's one of those things that we really feel that's what needs to be displayed, whether it's to the youth or other artists or even other businesses. It's really big, because we're talking about in this chat, which is awesome to hear, how can businesses get connected with artists and stuff like that. And I've always been a big believer. It's also the realization to artists is like, how do you carry yourself as a business to want, so that businesses would want to work with you, you know? He was in the chat earlier. The way my computer is now, I don't know if he's still in there, but one of my really good friend Shlomo joined the chat, and I asked him to join mainly because I really feel that he's a great example of that too. He's always taken advantage of different opportunities with different businesses. And one of my favorite ones, to be honest with you, is he has an amazing setup with Bravo's Pizza across the street. And it's something so simple in the sense that he went in and talked to Mike. Mike's an amazing guy if you guys haven't been to Bravo's. And he was able to talk to him and be like, hey, look, like I sell clothing for my radio station, Mass Music. Like, is there any way that if somebody comes in with Mass Music radio clothing on, they could get a discount with food? And Mike was like, yeah, sure enough. And it's just little things like that. But the reason why I bring it up is because it's also making people understand, look, we have to hold artists accountable. You know, they need to understand how they need to carry themselves when it comes to working with other businesses or when they're putting other situations. And one solution to that, we feel, is the Gym for Artists concept that we've been developing. Now, the Gym for Artists is essentially a platform that can be implemented into open spaces or abandoned warehouse spaces of that nature, basically any vacant commercial spaces, which since COVID, there's a lot. Now, most people will look at it as that can be detrimental to business and realty, but for us, we're really looking at it as could be a huge opportunity for the creative environment and the creative communities. With all this space being available, not being rented by companies and businesses right now, it really allows take our platform and give us a chance of possibly implementing it once we get to sit down and speak to some of these property owners. But the business model that we've created with the Gym for Artists is simply the journey. And that was something that we wanted to display to the artists and the members trying to come into the community. In the sense, one, the first thing we make them understand, there's a membership fee. And the reason for that, whatever type of member you are, is because as an artist, you need to understand the first step is really investing in yourself. If you can't invest in yourself a little, how do you expect anybody else to invest in your work or invest in you to get to the next level? And then with that, we have the different options of having private studio space that you can rent on a month-to-month basis, or just using the membership to any of the open studio spaces, which consist of rehearsal space, dance studios, paint studios, public recording studio, and clay areas, and a little more. But essentially our mindset with the Gym for Artists is that we're going to give you the bare essentials, you know, just like a gym does. And it fits for every type of athlete, going back to that sports and art comparison. You go to the gym and for the most part, everybody has the same advantages. It's a matter of what are you going to do with what you have at the gym. And that's really the mindset that we try to put on our members at the gym. We also try to expose them to different things when we can. One of the things that we have on a monthly basis is critique night, which is really cool for our members in the sense that our members can sit down as a community and we get to discuss different ideas that we're working on at that point. We kind of do it on this time limit like we're doing tonight. But basically you'll get some time to speak and then you get time for people to critique within the room on what they think of what you're working on. But it's just little things like those that we really think are important to getting artists to where they need to be. And that's really understanding the business and the seriousness of how they need to conduct their career if they want it to be a career. We're not saying that everybody has to do it this way, but we do understand that there are people that really want to take it serious and they want to get to the next level. And sometimes they're just stuck on what do I do next? And the Gym for Artists and Self-Made Designs is just one of those little outlets that we're trying to put together so people can do that. Finally, this is just some contact information. I don't want to keep going because then I'll start rambling of history and just all cool things. But if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them at the end. Also, here's some contact information. If you want to contact us personally, come by the shop. I hope to see you guys by the shop. Also, for everybody that tuned in tonight, I put a promo code to our website that's going to be good for a week. So if anybody wants to get 15% off any support local artist gear, any of our new self-made stuff that we have in the shop, feel free to check it out. Would appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, Zach. I definitely am going to be using that promo code. I already said at the beginning, you know, I need to get my kids some gear too. So, but I just want to say, I just recently did a tour with Zach, and then my partner in Good Trouble that's on here, Sharon Pierce. She brought me out to take a tour of the Gym for Artists, and it is so cool. And you have to go and visit. Go see Zach, and he will give you a tour. The building that they have worked on is just amazing. You walk in that space, and even if you're not an a self-identified artist, you're going to feel like an artist in this space. The walls are covered in amazing murals. Every space is for a different arts discipline. It's really a hidden gem in our city, and so I hope everybody takes the advantage of swinging by and meeting Zach in person and doing a social distance tour. So thanks, Zach, for being here, and thank you for sharing about Self-Made. We appreciate it. And thanks to all the speakers. I'm gonna throw it back to Cynthia, who's gonna bring us into our discussion portion.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Cynthia. I know Tim had to leave, but I think those were great presentations and incredibly inspiring as well. So we have about maybe like 15 to 20 minutes for discussion. And basically, I just typed in the group chat, just a discussion question. So I'm gonna read it. What are best practices for arts and business partnership, cultivation, and collaboration? And basically, if you have any questions for the speakers, that would be welcome as well. And for this portion, if you do want to speak, I would just ask that you type your name in the chat, and we'll be able to call on you in order to facilitate. So.
But anyways, when it comes to that, I think Shlomo and I talk about it a lot. I'm glad Gabe came in. Like, Gabe and I have been talking about it for years now. And it's one of those things where it really just comes down to thinking outside the box, taking the restrictions away, and not hesitating on what you can or cannot do. And the reason why I say that is because one of the things that with the arts and the cultures, especially that we see so regularly, is the fact that people have either opinions or stigmas towards arts and culture or artists. So because of that, people feel that they're very trapped, or there's only so much that you can do, but it's really limitless as to how we can come together, things we can create or do within the community. Like the example I gave earlier with Shlomo, but there's so many other things you can do. I love seeing the fact that they're going to be doing the murals on the windows, stuff like that. But it's really endless. It's just more so, I know it's tough, especially for the artist side, more so than the business side, but for artists getting out there, putting themselves out there and getting themselves an opportunity. But sometimes that's where the businesses come in. And so it really can be as simple as an artist call, for your company, something small like that, where it might not even be anything big, but especially if it's businesses with brick and mortars, it's like, if you have a window, let's let an artist paint on it. It's not permanent. It doesn't have to stay there forever. It could be a day, but you really never know how much that cross marketing or cross promotion could really help you, for the most part, especially if it's with an artist that, their community or the people that look at them may have never shopped with you, worked with you, whatever the case is. And with social media nowadays, which is a perfect example, some people have hundreds to thousands of followers. So a simple cross marketing, cross promotion, just by collaborating, could bring you hundreds to thousands of more viewers, followers, fans, customers, whatever you want to look at it as. So, but again, just taking down that filter, you know, I can work with you, you can work with me. There's really no say as to who can and cannot work with each other. So.
Zach, I'm wondering, and for yourself, and maybe for Shlomo, or for anybody else who might want to jump in, who has had a arts and business collaboration before, like if I'm an artist and like I have a local business that I'm interested in potentially partner, like what is the first step? You know, how do you break down that barrier of because I know what you're talking about is kind of destigmatizing, right, arts and culture and what that is and what that could be and what the collaboration would be. So like, what's like the very first like entry level, like, let's do this together? And feel free, anybody else who wants to chime in, just wondering.
I'll say quickly a few words about how we didn't have existing relationship with businesses. Many, I mean, we knew some of them, but we didn't have this kind of relationship in Chinatown with some of the businesses we worked with. And it was, you know, it does take a lot of time. You have to figure out when the right person is in the office, you know, like in the, you know, when the right person has the time to talk. And I think, so finding out the best way of communication. So my staff actually ended up using WeChat with a lot of the business owners because that's how they prefer to. And we don't usually use WeChat. So we adapted to how they communicated easier. And then just like having concrete examples of what you want to do. I think for a lot of our restaurants that we approached, they were like, I don't really get what you want. You know, you want an artist to come work with me on what, you know, like, so having some tangible example. Like we did one as a pilot, and then we had that photo that we could be like, this is an example of something that could happen. And that really was key for us.
It just really comes down to basic communication, you know, building those relationships. It goes back to that slide that I had up if you saw it, but it's like, you got to be a local hero first. And sometimes like our biggest local heroes are just that guy that we see everywhere. You know, he just supports the community. He goes to all the restaurants. He shows up to all the local events, stuff like that. Like there's really no specific local hero, but sometimes building those relationships as an artist or as a business, whether it's with other artists or other businesses, like that's really the best way to get it started, because it just builds that like comfort within the relationship. But yeah.
Thank you. So Kevin actually wrote in the chat, which city do you think is a good model for urban revitalization in Quincy, especially based on your personal experience? I think that's a great question. I don't know if anyone has any answers to that. I know Nicole typed in the chat as well.
Worcester.
Worcester? Yeah.
Doing an amazing job out there.
Right.
I think they're really setting the bar higher than anybody else in Massachusetts right now.
What about Worcester is so exciting to you?
Well, I love the walls, so the walls are really cool that they're doing that and they're really building off of that. But just as a whole, like it's really starting to come together for them as a city, in the sense that they have the museum out there, they have all the walls going on, but they're really just getting artists really involved like frequently, and it's really cool to see. Even one of our former artists was recently involved in one of their things, but like things as simple as they did a design contest, like I mentioned earlier, just a call for artists, and the city did it, and basically they selected one artist whose design was the best to do a street sign flip. So the artist I wish I had a picture of it, but he did a design and it was no bad days instead of like no parking or whatever the case is, and it ended up winning. And it was really cool because they ended up putting the sign up in the city, you know. They did stuff like that for him, and it's really cool because they're coming up with organic and original ideas like that are just giving spotlights to the artists.
Cool, thank you. Something about Worcester also, they have a Worcester Cultural Coalition, which is outside of the Worcester Arts Council as well. So it's a managing partnership, and I think that's allowed for the community to arrive at those really cool projects. So I also wanted to highlight, so John McDonald had Somerville and Newburyport. Did you want to share your thoughts about those specific areas?
Well, with Newburyport, they were able to, the city, I think it was for $1, gave them a building. It might have even been their original fire station. I can't remember. And they created a beautiful center there for performance and visual arts. But then a lot of the businesses in the downtown tend to be artisans. So there's a lot of glass, there's a lot of textile, mixed use of visual and performance art. There are a lot of stores that have popped up. It's very charming. It's on the water. And there's a great hub and energy. And I find Somerville to be just an area where there's something going on almost 24/7 with, you know, there's nightclubs and there's tons of music out in the street, in the clubs themselves. Obviously lots of restaurants, again, on the Red Line, which is helpful. And they have different performance art centers as well. It's not just like one hub. There are multiple hubs in Somerville. Actually, all the way down from, you know, Davis Square down into Cambridge, even, you know, into Harvard Square. So I think those areas certainly are models for us. And then I just wanted to echo what Cynthia said with regard to working with your as an artist, working with businesses. I do think you do have to have some sort of plan. You have to go in and articulate well, maybe not read from a script, but you know what you're passionate about, but also have a plan in place, because it is sometimes scary for a business to think outside of their own box. So I think if you're prepared, that helps them to make good decisions with regard to collaboration.
Great, thank you. Did anyone else have any questions or any comments they wanted to make about this topic?
I'm just curious if there's anyone involved with Quincy in the city that has gone through revitalization in another city. Does anyone have experience of having done it?
Well, Maureen Geary in the planning department for the city of Quincy, that's part of her position. I don't necessarily think that she's gone through it herself, but she is very well connected to all of the different communities and downtowns that have been revitalized. And she has her finger on the pulse with regard to what works, what doesn't work. Some of the things that got in different community gets in their way, and kind of like lessons learned. So I would say Maureen Geary in the planning department is somebody who is key. Zach has worked with Maureen, Dagny in tourism's worked with Maureen. A number of us have worked with Maureen Geary. So I would say her.
Maureen and I actually went down to Worcester last fall, and we did a tour of the whole city on what they're doing with all the different arts over there and stuff like that.
Yeah,
She's great context.
What I'm getting at is when New Bedford and Lowell, as examples, and Belfast, Northern Ireland, and Nicosia, Cyprus, were working on their downtown revitalizations, which takes decades. They actively visited other cities that were going through revitalization at different stages. And what I'm curious is, has that been initiated as an educational component, with any group in Quincy, or in this?
Hi, Cynthia.
Hi, Dagny.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I know we're coming to a close, but I'd be happy and willing to share some links and some information regarding New Bedford and the revitalization with their arts and culture plan, their cultural district, their retail and hotel, and everything they've done for the revitalization downtown. So I know that was mentioned, so I'd be happy to share some of that information and links, because I know we're coming to the end. But as the tourism director there for 7 years, they've had some good successful stories over the years. So I'd be happy to share those links with the folks in this session.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
Yes,
Sorry,
Kelly.
it's Kelly.
Hi, Kelly.
Maybe, I'm just suggesting maybe Dagny could be a speaker for one of the other calls. I think we would love to have that firsthand experience.
I'd be happy to.
Yeah,
Great.
I think
I was
that would
just
be
gonna
great.
say, this is a perfect segue. We have just 2 polls before we get to our wrap for the night. And Kelly, we still want to get you in there to just share your announcement with us. So we have 2 polls. The first is just about if you'd like to see this as a reoccurring event, a meeting. So if you want to participate in the polls, and we'll see the results in just a few seconds.
Okay.
All right, it's looking like folks are thinking yes. Oh,
Mhm.
we'll see. Oh wait, do I end the polling, Timothea, or?
You can vote. Do you
Oh,
see
of
it?
course. No, I can't vote actually somehow.
Okay, that's fine. So, all right, I think I'm gonna end the poll. So I don't know if you can see, oh, okay, I need to share results. These are the results. So yes, we would like to see a recurring meeting. And the thing is, so just Mass Cultural Council and MassCreative, we are, state partners, but basically the conversations, we think that they should be led from local active groups. So we'll be able to definitely support anything local that happens. So we can talk about that in the notes, but so I am going to share, I think, poll 2.
Yep.
So what kinds of topics would you like to see covered at future meetings? I think Kelly did bring up a really good point about having people like Dagny, people from other cities and towns kind of share their experiences with that. So you can choose multiple choices. All right. Cool. Has everyone answered? Yes? Okay, 12. There's 4 more people, but I am going to end it. And I'll share the results. So in the categories, we have communication among the arts community, mentorship, K through 12 arts education, speakers from the city, and speakers from arts organizations. So it seems like everyone is interested in all of these topics. So what we're gonna do after, we'll just take it and then we'll try to figure out a plan after the holiday season, because I'm sure everyone is super busy with what's happening, but we do want to continue the conversation. And again, we want to reemphasize that the fact that you're all doing the work on the ground is really important. So how can we further support your efforts? So I will actually throw it to Ed Fitzgerald and Kelly Koppel. They're the co-chairs of the Quincy Arts Council, and Ed runs the Historical Society, and Kelly also the Arts Association. So if you want to kind of talk about the grant cycle, any upcoming meetings or engagement opportunities for the group, that would be great.
Okay, we can do this together, one way or the other, Kelly. I think as Timothea knows, the deadline for the local cultural council applications has been extended to December 16th. So the original date had been November 16th. It's now December 16th. That's a decision by Mass Cultural Council. So that applies for all the cultural councils across the state, including the Quincy Arts Council. So that gives us a little more time and gives everyone a little bit more time. Kelly, yeah, go ahead.
I thought I saw the 14th.
It is
Am
the
I wrong?
14th.
Is it?
14th.
I'm sorry.
The 14th. No worries.
Sorry.
No worries.
Yep.
Okay, well,
Yep.
thanks,
I know.
Kelly. So we are, again, just to review, and please pass this along to anybody who might be interested. The LCC grants are the main way in which the Mass Cultural Council funds grassroots artistic activity in the humanities, activity in the interpretive sciences. So anyone is free to apply. It's a very simple application. We still don't know, unfortunately, because of the legislature, how much money we have for the coming year, but nobody gets $500,000 grants through this program. These are relatively modest grants that we're able to give, but at the grassroots level, they can be very useful. We're going to, I may have Kelly double check me on this date as well before I give a second bad date, but I believe we're going to aim a public, online public community input and inquiry meeting for December 1st. Have I got that one right?
Oh, I thought it was Monday, November 30th.
See, I'm a day off all the way around.
But no,
Okay.
that's okay. Is it
No,
Monday?
I mean, it's whatever that Monday is. Whatever that Monday
Right,
is it.
whatever that Monday is. I'm sorry.
So
we'll be sending that out.
Before I spread
Right.
any more confusion, let me open a calendar and make sure I know.
I know.
And we'll settle
And we will forward this to, the email list that Nicole and Timothea have been reaching these folks with. We'll also be putting it in the Quincy Sun and putting it on our website, etc. So you should be able to access that information.
It is November 30th, and we'll
Okay.
aim for 6 o'clock as this meeting was.
Okay.
And we will get more details out because we're sort of we're pretty new to the Zoom game here, so we're still figuring a few things out. But anybody who has questions either about the application process or just in general about the Arts Council, or even ideas or recommendations or thoughts about the local cultural council, this is your opportunity to talk with us.
Well, that night will be. I've already been on Zoom for about 8 hours today, so I don't know how many more questions I want to answer. But yeah, well, that hour and a half or whatever we need will be devoted to people with questions. But we are looking for, independent as well as well-established artists. The artists do not have to be from Quincy, but but the audience, it needs to benefit the people from Quincy, correct, Ed?
Correct, absolutely correct.
Right. And
we will prioritize locally originated projects. So Quincy artists and humanists do get.
And we look for projects that will have a far reach in their audience. It won't be it's not really just for a handful of people. It has to have a reach, a diversity, educational, component we look at. So and again, we look to have multiple populations be connected to the arts, and that is something that's really of utmost importance. So we are encouraging diverse and far-reaching audience benefit.
And the application, if you don't know, mass-culture.org /Quincy, or even mass-culture.org will get you to the application. And it's pretty self-explanatory from that point.
Ed, do you want to put the email up?
Yeah,
Because people can,
I will say it because I'm not
oh,
sure I know
okay.
how to, I'm not sure, I haven't quite mastered how we do the screens.
Type it
here,
into the
so-
chat. Okay.
I can show, okay, very good. See, I knew somebody would. help me out with this. Okay, so it's info, it's Quincy
Oh, wait, it might already be there.
Arts Council at
At,
gmail.com.
yep,
So
perfect.
the email, in the meantime, yes.
Yep.
That's not how to get the application, but if you have
No.
questions for us,
Mm-hmm.
or just email us there and we will get back to you.
Right. So the application is online, the process is online, and it gets submitted online. And then the council has to then retrieve the applications and, you know, go over them. So everything, this is a couple of years in now, everything is done online. So that's the only way to do it.
Great. Thank you so much, Ed and Kelly. Again, we will be sending out notes and we'll be including some of that information that was discussed then.
Terrific.
But thank you. So thank you to all the speakers and thank you everyone for, making the time to connect with us again. And I don't know if anyone else has any last words before we close the meeting. Nicole, did you want to share anything?
I just want to thank everybody for coming and spending your evening with us. I know it was a beautiful day today, so some people might have made the choice to stay outside a little bit longer, but we appreciate that you spent your time, your hour and a half with us. And really thank you to Cynthia and Zach, and to Tim and Kelly and Ed. Thank you to all the speakers, and just again, thanks to everybody for showing up again. And I hope that this is a conversation that we can continue. I certainly am feeling really motivated and energized and inspired after every conversation. So thank you.
Thank you.